My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft.
Corruption at every level of the local government engaged in criminal surveillance and furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder as a corrupt public entity targeting an American citizen in concert with the people of the state. Domestic terrorism under Paul Leon's demonic influence in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2, which Leon shares in and criminally facilitates as an un-American leader of domestic terrorism and with cooperative engagement by facilitation of the criminal monitoring conducted by Mike LORENZ, Michael GERKEN, Alan WAPNER, and the corrupt domestic terrorist functions of the City of Ontario, utilizing the local government and its resources and funds used to create and support them for gang stalking, criminal surveillance that Leon, a demon of the same community, is engaged in and approves of. Leon is unfit and is an exposed enemy of American citizens and of these United States, governed by the Constitution, protecting from his system of terrorism underway in Ontario, California, in conformity to the U.S. government's criminal pattern of conduct, which necessitates removal of enemies of this country from office. Enemies including sex offender, covert psychopath, demon-possessed stalker, and corrupt official Paul Leon, who was a threat to the public as he remains a gang-stalking mayor for the thoroughly corrupt municipality. Leon commits battery and sexual assault and battery, harassment, psychological torture. He keeps my genitalia under close surveillance and maintains domestic terrorism throughout the city, as he is keeping me under surveillance in Ontario, California, and is accountable for violating my person in concert with the domestic terrorists roaming free, the Nephilim themselves, practicing this satanic ritualistic targeting system on his behalf with his knowledge at every level of government and with intent to obstruct justice, as I expose this domestic terrorist by virtue of this public investigation and the documentation proving Leon's necessary corruption and complicity, as every facet of Ontario is engaged in criminal monitoring and furtherance of murder on his behalf, and no more than a terrorist leader referring to himself deceptively as a mayor. See the P.O.C. Pattern of Conduct website for the latest developments in the public investigation of the U.S. government engaged in the ceaseless and real-time criminal surveillance system, appropriately referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring in the state of California, in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 22618 subsections 1 and 2. This has been a public service announcement produced by the Tangible Evidence, published on the internet for the whole world to witness in the public investigation of the United States government that's engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. This is gang stalking an American citizen. This is P.O.C.
Alrighty, it is currently, by the way, were you seeing the impossible light activity? This is the product of gang stalking, which is directly serving to remove a domestic terrorist leader, which is the mayor in every gang stalking city in the state of California. The entities engaged in the pattern of conduct at every level of government, every facet of that corrupt municipality that is requiring knowledge regarding funding, regarding what is necessarily complicity, which is what Paul Leon is exposed as. Not only is the entity gang stalking through every department, the police department, the fire department, the city airport, the municipal employees, and every business and household, as Woodside Senior Apartments, as the 280 North Lemon Apartments, as the entity that is gang stalking, in other words, in the households that are maintaining the specific environment, as I'm walking through the neighborhood in Ontario and the entity keeps a fake sun, while the entity is maintaining the fake sun over businesses that are engaging in the P.O.C., while the entity is engaging in the P.O.C. with the demons on the roads and the highways, where they're engaging in what is impossible light activity, which is the product of criminal monitoring that's occurring in the city in concert with a mayor. That's a deceptive misnomer. That is an entity that's sharing in that pattern of conduct with psychopaths that are engaging in what are the corrupt functions of a municipality with the knowledge of the gang stalker, the domestic terrorist himself. And in Ontario, it is Paul Leon, who has been in position engaging in what is criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder for 20 years. And this is speaking to what is the accountability of domestic terrorists that are exposed. Domestic terrorists that are, again, homegrown terrorists in this country, and they are directly responsible for the terrorism underway by the city police, by the city fire department, by the city airport, by the people of the state, where they're engaged in criminal conduct in concert with that government that's under the corrupt tutelage, the corrupt facilitation, the corrupt provisions and sponsorship of terrorists like Paul Leon. Paul Leon is responsible and shares what is the pervasive condition of mental illness. This is the Nephilim. And Paul Leon is of that same condition, shares the same mental incompetence, which is a basis in and of itself, an independent one for removal from office. But he is unfit based on what is criminal monitoring that's underway under his corrupt leadership. He's not ignorant of the government that is gang stalking. The government is acting through the people of the state, and they are gang stalking because of Paul Leon's engagement in the pattern of conduct. And at what is 537 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity maintained ongoing sexual assault and battery last night, ongoing harassment based on my evidence that I'm publishing on the internet, that Paul Leon in the city of Ontario, the state is keeping under surveillance. Paul Leon is not only a violent sex offender, he is a terrorist that intends to obstruct justice, and that is also why he's being removed from office, as any and every gang stalking mayor in any state shall be subject to the same penalties when you're targeting terrorists in the United States. The entities engaged in this conduct and Paul Leon's criminal engagement, what is keeping my genitalia under surveillance, is an independent basis of removal. The entity that's engaged in kidnapping and ongoing criminal monitoring, targeting terrorism in the ways in which the Ontario Police, the Ontario International Airport, the people of the state, the gang stalkers such as Bethel Congregation, where the fake sun is over my head in the middle of the afternoon while I'm standing on this same street, and the demon-possessed people of the state are engaged in the same conduct, targeting with impossible light on the opposite side of the same street, and the fake sun is over the top of my head at the same exact location. That's the entity that is speaking to and exposing inevitably a gang stalking mayor, which is an oxymoron to be dealt with under federal law. Domestic terrorists are going to be targeted, and any gang stalking mayor that is an immigrant is going to be deported. Okay, there is no exception with regard to federal law. The entities engaging in what is ongoing terrorism while they're doing so as a corrupt population, 5AOS 541, is engaging in what is terrorism, and so is Omnitrans, that's gang stalking systematically as a corrupt business. There's no sun remaining in the window of that bus that's headed toward Upland, California, where I have evidence mutually exclusive to what the city of Ontario is maintaining under the corrupt leadership of Paul Leon, who is the terrorist where I am subject to what is stalking by the mayor under the fake sun at the office of 303 East B Street, where I'm subject to terrorism, stalking, and harassment like you've seen by helicopter outside of the doors of the Ontario City Hall, where Paul Leon is directly engaged in what has terrorized me in the same way that every other demon is sharing in that criminal monitoring system, which is exposing severe, life-threatening, and a public threat regarding the mental illness of the Nephilim who are gang stalking and currently deceiving, maintaining a deceptive misnomer that is calling a demon a gang stalker a mayor in the city of Ontario. Okay, which is what is ongoing with regard to this epidemic regarding mental illness that's exposed upon the P.O.C, criminal activity that's exposed upon the P.O.C, and I am subject to the same criminal system, the same threat, the same sexual violence, the same horror outside of the doors of the City Hall. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:35 a.m. And this is speaking to what is going to be the mutual treatment. What is the prescription regarding terrorists that are hiding in positions of mayor throughout the states? And that is abrupt removal from office, prosecution, and also what is deportation and every other federal law that's going to apply with regard to targeting domestic terrorists in the United States. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, of indeed Sarah Regis, and you're understanding who are the Ontario Police. This is demon possession, mental illness, and sexual violence simultaneously exposed. And it's while Paul Leon, an exposed domestic terrorist, is also being removed from office upon the criminal monitoring under his corrupt leadership that Paul Leon is very much aware of, providing corrupt leadership, not necessarily complicit, but also as a demon under a fake sun. And subject to this conduct, Paul Leon acts with the demon-possessed population, psychopathic behaviors such as stalking with lights, stalking with planes, and stalking in helicopters, using the resources of the fire department, who engage in what is surrounding me with their demonic behaviors while they're engaged in criminal monitoring. This is a violation of federal stalking statute. Sarah Regis Group is going to be prosecuted, the fake sun, from sunrise until sunset, while the government is engaging in criminal monitoring with the people of the state that occupy and work at that venue, while the government is targeting an American citizen by flying in circles like an ominous stalker, a demon-possessed one, as the gang stalking mayor is being published on the World Wide Web. This is the same police department that's gang stalking at all venues in Ontario that are being exposed as what are acting in concert with the statewide P.O.C. This is, by the way, 8:53 a.m., where the entity's keeping the fake sun stationary at Euclid Avenue and what is E Street. This is where the entity sun, where the Ontario Police are after 6 p.m. stalking in the same exact manner. This is Paul Leon's statement of his disdain for this country. This is his statement regarding his hatred for American citizens, whom he targets as he is being exposed. The puppets of Satan are working for and under the corrupt leadership of Paul Leon, who are acting the same mental illness Paul Leon suffers from, the mental illness of the demon, using a helicopter, millions of dollars used on criminal activity, which Paul Leon, his stamp of approval is on it. 6XAM 179 federal prison based on the criminal conduct of Paul Leon, mental illness, stalking with impossible light by demons like this third party, sharing in concert under a fake sun. This is all under the corrupt leadership of Paul Leon, who was being removed. And all gang stalking mayors, Karen Bass, the same criminal pattern of conduct, Dominic Choi, Michael Moore, the entity engaging in this conduct, which is Miss Aquanetta Warren. She's an enemy of the United States. They're being removed from office. Okay, the entity engaging in this by the demon possessed. This is This is mental illness that's no longer closeted. And they're not engaged in law enforcement in California. They're engaged in surveillance. And they exhibit clear mental illness while they are exposed, because that's the psychopathic disorder that they've been trying to conceal. And as I speak to the truth of what they do, that mental illness is for the world to witness. The entity is going to be prosecuted, and Paul Leon's being removed from office. This is P.O.C. Every gang stalking city is doing so under the corrupt leadership. The gang stalking mayors are inherently engaging in that. They can't do it without the corruption of that office. And that office is going to be vacated by a terrorist that is exposed and no longer concealing itself under deceptive misnomers like mayor. Paul Leon has been in for 20 years engaging in what is domestic terrorism, and he is a demon. This is they are flying under the fake sun that's still here at 12 at 6 p.m. in the evening. They just flew through it. The mental illness 101. This is P.O.C. Public corruption 6YBT436. Immigrants like those that are gang stalking at the facilitating venues, the people of the state, they're being deported. 7XIY347. A gang stalking immigrant resides right now inside of this venue. They're being deported while engaging in terrorism. Criminal presence in the path. Ongoing public corruption. And this is obstruction while Paul Leon is being exposed on my Facebook, on Threads, on YouTube. And the entities engaging what is surveillance, and that's the demon possessed. That is Mike LORENZ, severely mentally ill, and every kidnapper are going to federal prison for targeting in concert with the city of Ontario. This is P.O.C. It is 8:55 a.m. Alrighty, this is 9:57 a.m. This has nothing to do with any takeoff from the airport at 2500 Airport Drive, nor any landing at the airport, a takeoff or a landing. This is flying what is in alignment to my person, just like I showed you at the Ontario Town Square. And they're doing the same thing, stalking in my path, doing so where I'm positioned in the parking lot and doing a U-turn, because the Ontario International Airport's not engaged in what is doing donuts for show, for pay. They're engaged in stalking, and psychopaths that are mentally so using helicopters do so as the people of the state. That's their legal term under the law, where domestic terrorism is exposed in the state of California in the United States, doing so under a readily identifiable environment such as a fake sun that's in the same parking lot where that same airport is stalking by definition, while I'm at the same position at 12:34 p.m. and this fake sun is right over the top of my head, when I'm in the same parking lot at 12:49 p.m. and this fake sun is over the top of my head, when I'm at this same location standing on the sidewalk, and after 6 p.m. that same airport is stalking by definition, and this fake sun is on the same location on the what is the west side of my person, where an entity is engaging what is rising and setting a fake sun over me, the targeted individual. And the entity is doing so while I'm documenting gang stalking immigrants. La Hermandad. The entity you'll see in the images, keeping the fake sun rising and setting. I don't have to capture that specific venue, speaking to what is ICE's and the president and the federal government's jurisdiction to deport every immigrant in the state of California. But I did capture that to show you that there is no exception, that they are all engaged in targeting with the government that uses planes and helicopters to threaten me, especially while I document the people of the state. That includes every single last immigrant in the state of California. And the entity is doing so with knowledge of documentation. That's why they were removing the evidence, which is how you are simultaneously, they're engaging in surveillance online while you're looking at them, deviating from any takeoff or flight from the airport. This is 434 North Euclid Avenue. This is 9:59 in the morning. The fake sun is here at 7 in the morning. This is the pattern of conduct. That's the significance of what they're doing. It's presence, it's light activity, and it's pursuant to what is a communication device where monitoring is underway in an environment and by a people, and this is the Nephilim, and this is the removal of Paul Leon, who's engaged in gang stalking, where the fake sun is remaining, and I'm subject to the same terrorism by that airport, by that gang stalking agency, feigning it as a police department, but not even persuasively. Everyone is witnessing their mental illness, which is their demon possession, being worn on the outside, and they're going to be stripped of those uniforms and those badges. They're going to prison for kidnapping, and so are the people of the state targeting, and that includes any gang stalking immigrant. Okay, they work at venues like Chevron. They are engaged in what is maintaining establishments to enforce what are the absence of any constitutional rights under the Constitution. Where you're engaged in domestic terrorism, immigrants don't have any rights. They're being deported. And they are inside of La Hermandad, where you will see engineer light all over the building outside, my shadow appearing in front of me in the shade, which is the maintenance of engineer light under a fake sun. That's not over this parking lot when I'm over there. It's over me at that building, which is the maintenance of a specific environment where immigrants are targeting. This is P.O.C. It's currently 10:01 a.m.
License plate 8 Jerry Xavier Zebra 316. 34749 Apple 3. This is ARCO employee 7 Henry Wendy Xavier 195, I believe. 5 Robert Larry Mary 330. This is Chevron employee license plate 7 Xavier Igloo Yolanda 347. License 8 Bob Zebra Charlie 511. 9 Edward Nancy Thomas 627. 22171 Bob 3. 7 Sam Edward Jerry 805. 6 Victor Henry Robert 550. 9 Edward Larry Mary Bob 90. 7 Tom Xavier Nancy 853. 9 Jerry Zebra Victor 810. Or rather 9 Jerry Zebra Victor Bob 10. No, that's 810. 9 Jerry Zebra Victor 810. 8 David Nancy Robert 500. 9 Edward Charlie Paul 526. 8 Uncle 69636. Every single last one of these third parties commits sexual assault and battery while they are stalking in the specific environment where the government's maintaining surveillance, in an environment where all the entity is engaging in whose presence in the path, doing so as an entity that's engaging in what is stalking, and they're molesting with impossible light activities. So they're all committing a sex offense while they're all stalking together. This is speaking to the numerosity regarding that incalculable and sexually motivated means of harming upon stalking and psychologically tormenting. And this is shared by the domestic terrorist, the demon engaging and calling him, referring to himself and wanting to be treated as though and affirmed as though he is a mayor. And no mayor is engaged in terrorism in the United States. We are not in some third world country. No mayor is engaged in gang stalking and criminal surveillance. No mayor is of the Nephilim that's a demon-possessed psychopath trying to conceal mental illness and funding terrorism in California at that, or in any of these states of the United States. These are psychopaths that are engaging in a sex offense, and they're doing so with specific knowledge of exactly who I am and exactly what it is that I'm documenting. That's why I'm subject to that ongoing terrorism while every single last one of these demons cross-path gang stalking. That's what they were committing while I'm reading their license plates. They're all touching. It's a demonic orgy that you did not consent to. And it is the outward demonstration of these demon-possessed who are targeting me while I'm documenting and publishing evidence. They are going to be committed. They are going to be convicted. They are going to be identified nationally with regard to the threat that they pose to the public. This is the Nephilim that's engaged in criminal conduct, and as it pertains to criminal conduct of the government, this is occurring on the watch of corrupt officials like Paul Leon, who's a part of the same community. And under the corrupt leadership, the demons who are the Ontario Police Department, they're engaging in everything that Paul Leon is engaging in and is facilitating and approves of. He's not ignorant about ongoing waste of expenditures, and it's a waste because it's criminal. It's not a waste to the Nephilim. They're very much invested in what's going on with my vagina in the bathroom. However, it's not a legitimate government interest. And it's also no sane conduct of any normal, natural, healthy human being. These are demons who are sex offenders, who are psychopaths, who are stalkers. They're monitoring American citizens. That's it. Their consumption, their obsession, their addiction is monitoring until they can take the life of the one whom they are targeting. And that's what every single last third party these, and this is only a sample, obviously, but this is speaking to what is substantial violence. And Paul Leon is being removed from office. License plate 7 Apple David Yolanda 172. License 7 Victor George Thomas 883. 9 Apple Paul Zebra 910. 60183 Xavier 1. George Edward Frank Robert Sam Henry. Nine Larry Victor Edward 758. 9 Jerry Bob Tom 134. 64 Bob 27 Henry 2. Yeah. 7 Uncle 92309. 7 Larry Apple Zebra 492. 91024 Bob 4. Jerry Kelly Apple 1 Larry Victor. 6 Larry Kelly Sam 989. 9 Edward Thomas Apple 460. 01397B1, that's Ride on Time LLC, gang stalking at ARCO. Nine Paul Mary Paul 781. 7 Tom George Frank 122. 9 Thomas Larry Paul 286. 9 Thomas Kelly Nancy 458. 9 Kelly Sam Sam 304. 8 Larry Zebra Sam 592. 6 Roger George Zebra 872. 9 Henry Kelly Xavier 894. 9 Larry Wendy 462. 8 Victor David Tom 478. 8 Thomas Charlie Kelly 815. 9 Frank Jerry Larry 672. 6 Mary Henry Bob 315. 5 Larry Edward Kelly 497. 7 David Victor Larry 152. 6 Roger Henry George 311. 8 Uncle Edward Frank 869. 8 Jerry Igloo Edward 950. 48904 George 4. This is a population. You can see through the video and the images that I'm capturing this morning. And it is Saturday, October 18, 2025, by the way. And you can see where I am capturing as I move, and where I remain is where a fake sun moves and remains as I remain there, as I travel there. And that is directly opposed to what it is that I'm documenting on another day, when you are looking at the clear difference between a predictable, consistent, natural environment and the environment that is tailored to me, where everyone in that environment is stalking, including that environment which is the identification or criminal surveillance of a demonic, ritualistic, satanic nature is underway. And that's following to the Ovid Family Community Library, who's engaged in psychopathic behavior. The so-called administration, another deceptive misnomer. This is the Nephilim that are engaged in criminal surveillance in Ontario, and they pace in and out of rooms. They pace in and out of the building. They pace around having engineered light that they're walking in, sitting in, speaking in, stacking books in, using communication devices in, and they're all monitoring me, and it is centered around me. That's why a fake sun remains over my head and was not already in a natural environment, already over this entrance, at a distance away from me, at standing in front of La Hermandad on Euclid Avenue, away from a distance where I wouldn't be able to capture it over the top of my head at Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue. Still at that same intersection where it was during the 7 a.m. hour. That same intersection where I'm documenting that fake sun still there after 6 p.m. Where that airport is engaging in what is ongoing deviation from anything associated with a takeoff from the terminals 2 and 4 at the airport, 2500 Airport Drive, where they are hovering, and not only hovering, engaging in what is hovering with extraordinarily loud activity, which is relevant to, in that environment, which I'm showing you is tailored to me and not a natural one, is relevant to the Nephilim, demons who are monitoring, and you are stalking while you're monitoring. I'm even proving that they're stalking because they are stalking as a population that's not going anywhere. They are maintaining perpetual presence while a perpetual fake sun remains over me, and that is clearly underscored and highlighted as I stay on one intersection, one street, one location, one address. The entity follows with the fake sun to the Ovid Family Community Library, as opposed to the sun already being over the Ovid Family Community Library, like I'm documenting at 7 in the morning when I'm at that parking lot, like I'm documenting at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm at that front entrance, like I'm documenting at 10 a.m. when I'm walking from the Ontario Town Square and I walk to that entrance and that fake sun moves east to be over that entrance, where it remains at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where it remains at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where it remains outside of that same entrance after 6. Which is non-movement of a sun, the identification of a crime scene, where demons are dwelling. Demons that include Paul Leon inside of 303 East B Street, where I'm subject to the same exact terrorism, stalking and terrorizing me with helicopters, threatening my life, my safety, my well-being, and my liberty, because those particular terrorists have a documented pattern of kidnapping, and they are engaging in what is not only exercising authority under the law that they do not have as a criminally monitoring agency, but they are engaged in what is maliciously targeting and committing kidnappings, not false arrests. These are kidnappings outside of the law, while they're engaged in criminal surveillance with the intent to obstruct justice, that is, oppress me, defame me, that is, to silence me in the investigation that this government, that agency, Paul Leon, the city of Ontario, the state of California, the demons who are the people of the state, gang stalking on behalf of that corrupt government, are fully aware of and apprised of, including by the evidence of stalking and molesting with impossible light activity. That is the evidence of specific knowledge of who I am and what I'm doing regarding a public investigation, which is a threat to my life and any American citizen. I just want to be clear on that. You're able to witness that by itself while the fake sun is over me and a demon is engaging in what is hovering in an airplane that's flying up to my physical location in the parking lot at ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue at 9:58 a.m. That is the absence of the sun. That is the absence of a natural environment that is going to have the light source, what would be southeast, over the entrance of the Ovid Family Community Library. And what would be not hovering over the Saris Regis downtown Ontario luxury apartments, making a U-turn, flying up to where my person is physically located in that parking lot, and then turning around and making a U-turn. That is referred to as what I've showed you as a method of relevant positioning, psychopathic pacing. It's accomplished in helicopter, like you saw the demons, Mike Lorenz, that's engaging in gang stalking, using helicopters. That is the criminal misuse of resources that Paul Leon is responsible for. Paul Leon is reasonably responsible for and knowledgeable about and will be removed from office for, where it is serving domestic terrorism, where he is in a position of leadership that he is unfit to be in, based on the existence of this criminal system, which is serving to target American citizens. And also based on what is his actual engagement in at the part of the same community. Stalking under the fake sun over the same Ovid Family Community Library. It's following me to this venue. The entity keeps a fake sun over me in the middle of the afternoon at the Ontario Town Square. It's documented within the evidence of this public investigation. It's already on the record. He is not actually ignorant, nor reasonably ignorant, nor will any gang stalking mayor sit in office. These are oxymorons that are going to be dealt with under federal law. Gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison. Gang stalking mayors are being removed from office, and they are not exempt at all for federal prosecution as terrorists in the United States. Paul Leon has committed several kidnappings with the Ontario Police. Paul Leon's engaged in an ongoing documented threat to my life and safety while I document this demon by name. And the demons of the Ontario Police, just like they did this morning, engage in and resume stalking, threatening, ongoing criminal monitoring, federal stalking under Title 18, in furtherance of murder by helicopters, by using those resources of that corrupt police department, which is how a gang-stalking mayor threatens and oppresses and intimidates and obstructs justice against an American citizen that is documenting, that is enforcing the rights, that is blowing the whistle. And no gang-stalking mayor is exempt from any federal prosecution. There is no such law or protection. Even when it's an unprecedented, never before contemplated violation of the government, such as a gang-stalking government. That's what the state of California is. It's a terrorist. It's currently, by the way, 11:59 a.m. The psychopaths, by behavior, not just because I feel like calling out names, their behavior dictates what is wrong with them. And their behavior is also speaking to on whose behalf they are engaging in psychopathic behavior. And it is the gang stalker himself, Paul Leon, unfit, not only based on the mental illness that is closeted by this domestic terrorist, the sexual violence that is underway and facilitated by this enemy of the United States. It is underway because of him. And that is the basis for removal from office for any domestic terrorist, hiding under the names and titles such as mayor, governor, police chief, fire chief, etc. These terrorists are being identified and they are being removed. They're being uprooted. They're being deported when they're not natural-born citizens. They're being imprisoned when the facts and circumstances call for that. It is currently 12 p.m. on October 18, 2025, and this is the
All right, this is documentation of the ongoing outward demonstration of mental illness that the demon-possessed cannot conceal. They cannot keep closeted or a secret, nor can they the fact that they're stalking as a population that's a violent sex offender as one, acting as a corrupt public entity engaging in criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder. And inside of the library where I'm showing you the fake sun after 4 p.m., the same entrance where I'm walking under it as it follows me to the entrance, by the way, not already over the entrance, pursuant to a natural environment, stalking with that environment, and everybody in that environment is stalking as well. They are inside. It's 5:05 p.m. The mentally ill are surrounding stalking, doing so inside of the Oakwood Family Community Library, and stalking with impossible light that's fanning across the ceiling while they are specifically targeting regarding fear that the demon-possessed experience as I'm publishing more video documentation from 2022. This is the specific signature of demons who are also monitoring genitalia and bathrooms, who are also specifically targeting an individual whom they are aware of. They know exactly who that person is, what they're doing, and where they're located, while the entity is engaging in terrorism, which the entity is going to federal prison for, particularly at this venue that committed kidnapping. This is an entity that's always making a series of admissions regarding the malicious conduct with the Ontario Police Department, while the entity keeps a fake sun, by the way, which is a 2-minute walk from the Ontario City Hall, where Paul Leon is of the same condition. Paul Leon's Ontario City Hall, the headquarters for the city, they're engaged in gang stalking. The fake son did not leave the same property of where the mayor's office would be located at 303 East B Street. And I highlighted that for you in the Google Maps, and I've already spoken to that before. Today, I have given a public service announcement, a reminder about how broad and far-reaching the prosecution of the United States government is, where a state is targeting an American citizen in furtherance of murder, targeting them as a psychopathic population that is stalking in silence with impossible light, that is engaged in, while they're all engaging in what is psychological torture while that's underway inside of the building, and they're all engaging in what is mentally demented behavior, which they are committing together as an entity, as a unit, in furtherance of murder, and they're also admitted sex offenders. This is 5:06 p.m., 215 East C Street, where the fake sun remains. This is P.O.C. That's audible activity, relevant positioning, while a demon is crossing path and engineer light. All right, this is stalking by an airport. There's no takeoffs, not at that elevation. Also, not over this Ontario Town Square. This is the same environment where the entity kept the fake sun all day. Look at the documentation published online. This is light activity over here. and audible activity. This is Carlos monitoring. Carlos is monitoring with the City of Ontario regularly. The entity is molesting, surrounding with impossible. This is light activity, relevant positioning, gang stalking. The entity, Sarah Regis, is gang stalking, molesting with impossible light. The entity is stalking at the parking lot. I took images of demons aiming light toward me. Their headlights are not what is reaching that extraordinary distance to touch me. These are demons stalking with light. So let me show you also the specific environment. Here is my shadow back here, but I'm going to show you how the shadows change. It's engineered light. First of all, my shadow's traveling in front of me. The entity's maintaining presence. That's what this third part is right here. Here you got multiple shadows over here. This is where you are stalking, okay? This is happening during the day as well. This is where the entity's maintaining aerial surveillance, flying wherever it is that I'm located on the property, and doing so making extraordinarily loud plane activity, speaking to what's not even mimicking any persuasive takeoff. You're not taking off miles away from the airport. But this is what the entity is doing on a ceaseless basis, and this is relevant to the prosecution of the government, the Ontario International Airport, conspiring, murder, gang stalking, doing so with impunity while they are keeping the evidence of them gang stalking me under surveillance. It is currently 6:58 p.m. by demons at nightfall, stalking as a population. He was in the library gang stalking, monitoring my vagina, gang stalking, sitting at nightfall at this, with the same entity maintaining ongoing P.O.C. It is currently 6:58 p.m. at 224 North Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. Here's a shadow right here. Yeah, and there's my shadow over here. This is monitoring, which is pursuant to stalking, criminal surveillance, P.O.C. All right, the entity is stalking by helicopter, and the people of the state are aiding in that ongoing monitoring and terrorism by stalking with impossible light. Mule Car Smokehouse is gang stalking, and they're doing so. It's 200 North Euclid Avenue. The entity on the bench over here, impossible light, that's not from their headlights. In the same way, when they're driving by, it's not sunlight ricocheting off of their car. They're engaging in the same exact pattern of conduct, targeting me with light, knowing a population knows exactly who I am while they're conspiring murder together, and gang stalking with the entity that's stalking in helicopter. Sounding helicopter activity, and the co-conspirator, the people of the state, are surrounding in the path, stalking with impossible light as well. They are stalking. The light conduct is relevant to stalking. The presence is relevant to stalking. The stalking by the government using a helicopter and presence by the people is relevant to stalking that is conducted with regard to an entity acting in concert with each other. And they're doing so while the entity is maintaining impossible light. Here's my shadow here, and here's my shadow here. The entity engaging with a stalking by helicopter and seeking to avoid being captured. So I'm watching content online. This is documentation of ongoing targeting by the City of Ontario. I'm still going to publish this. The entity sounding helicopter activity, amplified aerial surveillance, in other words, and the entity is targeting me with impossible light over here on this bench. Okay, it's targeted and it's specific. It's an admission to knowing who you are while the entity keeps things like a fake sun over you. An admission while the entity does things like target you with light that's not sunlight and light that's not headlights. None of them are driving north and south, having any light that's going to touch this. The entity coincides that with the sound of what is helicopter activity, threatening my life and safety and well-being. The people of the state are going to federal prison for domestic terrorism. They act so with an impunity, with regard to what is a threat that they intentionally pose as an entity to my life, and it's going on their individual criminal records when they're in court, crying before a judge that's not going to hear anything. And they're going to be deported. They're going to be prosecuted, and the entity's going to be prosecuting businesses like Mule Car Smokehouse, Sarah Regis, the 280 North Limit Apartments, which is a City of Ontario apartment complex, the government that's gang stalking, and that's how the entity is engaging what it's targeting, by the way. The entity, this is mental illness, so they're not thinking about those consequences, but this is exactly how you're going to prosecute domestic terrorism. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:07 p.m. This is the City of Ontario stalking with the people. All right, this is the Ontario police that was stalking this morning under the fake sun as I'm publishing evidence about the domestic terrorist Paul Leon. And the Ontario police is stalking now. They're stalking in the same specific environment in an engineered light. That's engineered light that they were stalking me, flying over my head, flying in circles around me, engaging in conspicuous stalking, ominous stalking, threatening stalking, using a helicopter, and they're gang stalking now. That's the agency that's being disbanded for being a domestic terrorist exposed in the United States. Mike LORENZ is done with law enforcement, and that police department is being shut down. Those are demons. This is my shadow that's in front of me. and this is my shadow that's behind me. That is not caused by any sort of light activity that's on the building or any of these lights. This is demonic, and this is the same agency that I'm documenting on a serial basis, engaging in what is threatening conduct. It's domestic terrorism in the U.S. is pursuant to what is demonic activity. They're demons, but they're engaging in what is stalking, gang stalking, federal stalking on the venue of the internet via communication devices, and they're not doing it by themselves. They can't do it without the people of the state. That's the prosecution of the state of California, the U.S. government. That is through corrupt police departments. They're actually engaged in surveillance, not law enforcement. And this is the removal of Paul Leon from office. Paul Leon threatening my life while these psychopaths stalk me by helicopter under a fake sun today, pursuant to a statewide P.O.C. It is currently 7:38 p.m. That's the entity stalking in the path in concert with the people. All of them are stalking in the path. And this is speaking to the specific environment. This is not the natural environment, speaking to the engineer light. This is ongoing surveillance that the Mike LORENZ has been engaged in for years. He's being removed from law enforcement. The kidnappers of the Ontario police are going to prison, and so are the people of the state gang stalking with that agency, which is Paul Leon's removal from position that he holds. He's a domestic terrorist leader. He's aware of every act, every tactic employed to keep me under surveillance and my vagina under surveillance in Ontario. He's being removed from office for it. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:39 p.m. I just want to be clear. C. Torres, L. Martinez, B. Hook, Nathan Morgan, C. Hazelwood and Owens, L. Edwards, Alex Escobar, and A. Quesada, they're going to federal prison. They're engaged in gang stalking when they engaged in kidnapping. So did Vivanco and Joseph Velasquez and Durham, that engaged in kidnapping right here at this Ontario Town Square, where that agency is routinely and right now engaged in surveillance, and lied and said that I harassed someone, the people of the state that are gang stalking me. They're going to federal prison for what is kidnapping upon federal group stalking and monitoring. This is P.O.C. This is the entity targeting, flying over my head twice in a day. That's not a coincidence in the specific environment. Those are the demon possessed that are obsessed with me, and their obsession is relevant to mental illness. Their mental illness is also clearly seen while you're looking at them fly in circles. This is demonic pacing. This is what the demons that are using commercial planes commit while they fly one after another, after another, after another. It's demonic pacing. It's relevant to the behavior of the demon possessed whose minds are totally demented while they're engaging what is stalking as a population. This is a failed witchcraft. It's a failed sacrifice, and the Ontario Police, the state of California, is going to be fully prosecuted for it. This is P.O.C. The entity engaging what is psychopathic pacing, flying in circles. This is going on the playlist regarding mental illness that is not covert or closeted. The mentally ill that are calling themselves police departments are being removed from position, and they're engaged in criminal monitoring. They're all walking in engineer light. This is public corruption by the entity, and this is why the Ontario police are being disbanded. See my shadow over here? They're engaging in what is their perpendicular shadows. These are gang stalkers. This is P.O.C. And they're co-conspirators to murder. They do so under the age of majority. And that's speaking to the disbanding of a police department as well. This is P.O.C. flying over my head for the third time today. This is a pattern of conduct. This is Mike LORENZ. The Ontario police is indeed being disbanded. And there is no controversy. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. And so is Eric Corey Spencer, that he's going to federal prison. Tommy Ellen Banks and everybody, the people of the state that sat and defamed my character with these demons that engage in criminal defamation upon kidnapping, they're going to federal prison. All right, that includes Jason Isaac Fields, the entity. This is the prosecution for what is the entity employing corrupt mental health professionals that never met me, that engage in kidnapping me with this entity that's targeting. They're going to prison for it. This is the pattern of conduct, and this is the macro level analysis. It's pursuant to targeting through and through. And this is the very foolish conduct that's going to put gang stalking medical professionals and the people of the state that are gang stalking, like at Starbucks, they're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It's currently 8:29 p.m. So let me show you the same pattern that the Ontario International Airport, that is gang stalking, engages in. The entity is stalking by helicopter as I am beginning to upload documentation of the people of the state that are co-conspirators in murder. And as I am engaged in what is documentation, use of my device, publishing on the internet, the psychopaths who are calling themselves a law enforcement agency that are also they're actually engaged in criminal surveillance. They engage in, the train activity is supplementing for what is the helicopter activity when they're flying over my head. They just engaged in this seconds ago while I'm preparing to upload the license plates of all these demons who are conspiring in murder with the Ontario police, gang stalking. And as I'm getting ready to publish their license plates on the internet, this demon flies over my head again. This is the entity that is indeed threatening, like the people of the state are threatening your life while the government uses helicopters to threaten you, stalk stalk you, harass you while you're exposing them. These are the people of the state that also commit criminal summoning and kidnapping. This is what Starbucks did while they're gang stalking with the entity itself. They're going to prison. You're understanding how the system works? The people of the state are going to prison, and that demon's going to, this is mental asylum material right here. And Paul Leon's being removed from office. The fire department's gang stalking, AMR's gang stalking, the Ontario International Airport's gang stalking, and their demons engaging in this system. And they're doing so while I am capturing the specific environment where the people of the state are gang stalking. So this is what I'm going to capture right now, because I'm going to publish this. This is what is inspiring ongoing terrorism that I'm subject to. And the people of the state share in this ongoing violence, which is psychologically harmful, and it's a threat to my life that third-party license 27940L3 poses. Stalking with the entity by helicopter flying over the top of my head as I'm capturing at 7:42 p.m. License 9 Henry Victor Frank 902. The same pattern of conduct, gang stalking with the Ontario police that are again targeting me as I then put these domestic terrorist license plates on the internet where they're going to go anyway, and now they're getting more enhanced charges. This is relevant to federal prison. Gang stalkers threaten you as an entity. They kidnap you as an entity. They intimidate and stalk you as an entity. They kidnap and criminally summon as an entity, and they're going to be subject to what is a federal prosecution. The entities engaged in this is license plate 8TJH785, threatening me with the Ontario police as I'm documenting it at 8:32 while this terrorist is stalking me with the police department in furtherance of murder. License 9TKA555. Gang stalking me with the Ontario Police, license 8GYC192. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police, license 8ZVT231. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, license 9RCL089. Gang stalking me at the Ontario Town Square with the Ontario Police Department, license 9 Nancy Henry Yolanda 088. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, co-conspirators of murder and doing so as an entity. In other words, doing so with the criminal objective to murder the targeted individual that they are stalking with impossible light, stalking under a fake sun, stalking at the location where the entity keeps that crime scene around me. Engineer light is present now, while psychopaths using helicopters, a whole police department is stalking me while they're keeping then the evidence against them under surveillance. They are doing that in furtherance of murder. License plate 03841 George 4. And this is the people of the state. You can see her perpendicular shadows. They're all walking around gang stalking me with the Ontario Police Department. The entities engaged in this mule car smokehouse is monitoring as a corrupt business engaged in criminal surveillance with the entity that's flying around their business, gang stalking me. All their customers and employees are monitored on communication devices. Everybody in traffic is monitoring with the demons at the Mule Car Smokehouse. And it's the same analysis for Wells Fargo, who you see gang stalking me and harassing me on behalf of this gang stalker using helicopters. That's exactly what you saw on video. And who flies in circles over me and is pacing on the roads and the highways in engineered light? The same demons that are stalking and terrorizing and threatening me right now while I'm documenting the demon-possessed domestic terrorists, the enemies of this country, the gang stalkers who are in the United States engaging in criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder with gang stalkers like the Ontario police that are being disbanded. And Paul Leon is a gang stalking mayor who's being removed from office. He is unfit. All right. This is the downtown Ontario luxury apartment, Sarah's Regis, that's engaged in targeting with the Ontario police. The entities using the property, all of the residents and all the employees and the people of the state go on their property, engaging what is monitoring me, stalking in the path, stalking with light, doing so as demons, doing so with regard to what is public corruption. And at the Ontario Town Square, I'm subject to what is ongoing harassment. The entities doing so with regard to monitoring what it is that I'm publishing online, and everybody that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, they get more federal charges. They get more federal charges. This is the very criminal system that is going to be the basis for removal of what is the very corrupt demon that's in office right now and who is unfit to be in office, where the fake sun remained over the Ovid Family Community Library. As I'm documenting, after 10 a.m., as I am arriving at around 10:04, the Ontario City Hall is a 2-minute walk away. He's a gang stalking demon. He's unfit for office, and the criminal conduct by the Ontario police is happening because he is aware of it, engaged in it, permits it. Okay, this is financing terrorism. Mike LORENZ is being removed from office, and the entity that's engaged in kidnapping and calling itself an Ontario police, they're going to federal prison. It is currently 8:35 p.m. I want you to see what is mental illness. The entities engaged in ongoing psychological torture and what is psychopathic pacing. Psychopathic pacing. This is a demon that's outraged. This is a demon that's stalking. This is a demon that's a coward. As soon as I stop the camera, they fly over my head again. That's what I'm publishing on X. They're being removed from the positions they had. Domestic terrorists are not remaining as police departments in the U.S. They're being disbanded and they're going to federal prison. It's going to be a statement in this country and internationally. Domestic terrorism is not going to be permitted in this country. And this is Criminal activity by a police department, antithetical to what is the purpose, and this is mental illness. You're looking at what is the poster board for mental illness. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:35 p.m. License plate 8VUG060 and license WMV188D. That looks like a Baja, Mexico. Sinaloa, Mexico. Molesting. This is a psychopath creeping up to the intersection in order to brush across my person with impossible light. Stalking. In doing so, it's a touch pursuant to stalking and stalking on behalf of the state. They're gang stalking with bucket, crab, and crawfish as well. This is a gang stalking male. The entity engaging in sexual violence at Chevron as well, molesting with German. German is the employee at Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue. Whole bunch of sex offenders gathering together to molest you. Again, that demonic orgy that they force you to be a part of while they're stalking you and monitoring you. And that's sexual violence by the government. It's currently 9:26 p.m. P.O.C. All right, this is a demon with the Baja, Mexico plate. This is them engaging in what is stalking with light activity. This is what demons do when they know that they're being documented. This is an act in furtherance of murder. It's light activity, and this demon turns on his hazard lights after I take a picture of him, his face through the windshield. These are demons that engage in that conduct. They'll drive off as they're on the roads and turn their hazard lights on while they're driving, turn on their turn signals while they're staying straight. This is an entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct and doing so, and this is with the Ontario Police that's stalking with the people of the state. Those license plates that are recited in that video, this is the entity that's going to prison for kidnapping with that Ontario Police Department. That's again VMV 188D. That's Sinaloa, Mexico. And I'm going to show you. Here's my shadow right here, and here's my shadow right here. This is light activity, not a precautionary measure, and it's malice by a gang stalker that is engaged in what is terrorizing a woman in furtherance of murder. And he derives pleasure. As soon as I document, he turns on his hazard lights. He's here engaging in gang stalking. This is timing with regard to my presence. This is what's happening during the day under a fake sun, on a street where the fake sun rises and sets, and he's doing so with his gang stalking homosexual female friend, 8MOF669. This is P.O.C. They're doing so in impulsive light activity. This is the malice of the demon possessed that are engaged in what is the pattern of conduct, and deportation is what's going to apply uniformly with regard to domestic terrorists in the United States. Where it applies, P.O.C. ATRP 107 and bucket, crabs, and crawfish, all of their customers, all of their employees, the entity that's gang stalking on the roads and the highways are doing so with demons that are crossing paths, doing so stalking with light, molesting me while I'm at that bus stop with impossible light activity as well. This is not a precautionary measure, it's light activity in the engineered environment. That is against VMV 188D. This is what is monitoring and stalking and terrorizing with the Ontario Police. P.O.C. Okay, the video that you just listened to of the Ontario Police stalking, that is following me from Chevron, stalking in a helicopter this morning under the fake sun, continues to what is the Ontario Town Square stalking in a helicopter, flying repeatedly over me. I took pictures and videos of the multiple times that same demon-possessed agency used helicopters to repeatedly fly over me and fly circles around me, while I just so happen to be engaged in documentation as well, in the specific environment where no artificial light, no combination of light bulbs or light creation is going to cause your perpendicular shadows, multiple shadows, layers of shadows, varying sizes of shadows. This is where the entity is engaged in surveillance. License 8CZR743 is gang stalking with the Ontario Police, and so are the following. License 5WBZ057. After following this video you just listened to, the entity is flying over my head, stalking, following me back to the ARCO after I leave 537 North Euclid Avenue, and the entity is engaging in that iteration of Baghdad-like, Afghanistan-like terrorism, while I'm documenting on video the fact that a whole city is stalking me and using the resources of that corrupt entity to engage in targeting me in the middle of the night by helicopter, while the demon-possessed that are on foot in engineer light surveilling, keeping me under surveillance all night long, as demons engaging in harassment all night long. This isn't traffic, it's surveillance. The entity follows me back down to ARCO. We're at 434 North Euclid Avenue where they were stalking at Chevron this morning, follows me back over here, flies over me again, stalking. That's a threat that's a threat to my life, as the entity is stalking me in a helicopter as a so-called police department. And the entity is doing so with regard to what is a threat to my life and liberty, engaging in repeatedly kidnapping me when they're engaging in stalking me.
police. The entity does so while I am in use of what is my using my documentation to upload. And the following are engaged in stalking and threatening and gang stalking with that entity using helicopters in furtherance of murder. These are co-conspirators of murder. License 53831H3. License 9 Apple Uncle 437. License 8 George Xavier Uncle 557. License plate 9 Thomas Charlie Uncle 915. License 8 Paul Thomas Charlie 617. License 7 Paul Bob Thomas 339. License 8 David Sam Mary 162. License 6 Sam 59177. License 8 Tom Charlie Bob 110. License 8 Zebra Queen David 141. License 8 Sam Victor Apple 739. Stalking in the path right now with light. All these demons that are engaged in surveillance and stalking and threatening me with the Ontario police, as I capture images of their license plates, all those demons come marching out of what is Gloria's Cochina's third-party facilitating venue. And the entity is fully exposed to what is being raided. You were talking about raiding venues like La Hermandad, like Gloria's Cochinas, where the entities, like the Ontario Police Department, any gang stalking immigrant, they're being deported. And the entities engaging in that with regard to any type of immigrant. It's no specific race or heritage or culture. Anyone that is not a natural born citizen been granted the privilege to be here, including one that would be in a position as a police chief. There is no respecter for any terrorist. You're going back to wherever you came from, and you can terrorize your people wherever that is. But you don't belong in the United States of America, and you are being shipped out of here. The entities engaged in this P.O.C., and they are indeed engaged in monitoring. They're not coincidentally crossing path in the engineered light while the entity is stalking me by helicopter, and I just so happen to snap your license plate. Those are demons that are gang stalking as psychopaths, the Nephilim, and they walk out of Gloria's Cochinas, many of them, as I document them. They're gang stalking whether they stay inside or not. Wherever they're at, they're in relevant position gang stalking with that police department that is again flying over the top of my head and doing so regularly on video, which is going to be recognized in federal courts as an act of terrorism. A threat to the life in real time to an American citizen, and the Ontario police have done it hundreds and hundreds of times, and they're going to be prosecuted for that. The entity's doing so with impunity while they're watching me record them, speaking to their disdain for this country, for American citizens, for enforcement of your rights, and everything else that I represent as I'm enforcing what are constitutional rights and human rights that every American citizen has, even those that are outside of the United States. This is human rights and basis right here. But I'm in the United States, and we have a constitution, and I'm enforcing that, and you're looking at what are exposed domestic enemies of these United States. No exaggeration. They are being disbanded. It's not a police department. The fire department is not a fire department. It's being shut down. They're being removed. Michael GERKEN is no fire chief. These are, they have always been enemies of the United States. You are witnessing me conduct my public investigation, and you're looking at them walk in conformity to what are actual enemies exposed as they are feigning to be fire departments and police departments that are literally the core of the operation of the local government, and they're enemies of this country, engaging in surveillance and targeting American citizens who are protected under the state and federal constitution. And you're also seeing, as I enforce my rights, how much of a disdain they had for that, how much they disregarded, how much they are acting in a manner that is antithetical to their very purpose and what they're supposed to be engaging in. And it is nothing noble or heroic. It's barbaric and criminal and inhumane. Okay, those are the people of the state that are gang stalking and doing so at ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue, Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, surveillance, gang stalking, hiding behind gas stalls while they're stalking in the path, maintaining surveillance on behalf of that government. And this is the conduct that they engage in while they conspire murder. These are psychopaths and these are cowards. As soon as I started recording, the demons that were already stalking turn on their sirens and lights crossing path. This is what they're doing. This is the context this is where the fake sun rises and sets. On this street, where they are stalking, you know what the fake sun is indicating? Stalking with light. You know what they're doing in those trucks? Stalking with light. And where are they doing it? Where you're looking at impossible light activity, irreconcilable with regard to the environment and the ability to recognize a domestic terrorist that's trying to masquerade as a legitimate function of the government. This is how you will expose and prosecute domestic terrorists who are in fact targeting American citizens while wanting to maintain the form, the deceptive and malicious form, as engaging in some sort of important function of the city, when all they're doing is stalking an American citizen, which only the Nephilim, only psychopaths would go to that extent to do so. And that's because they don't have any identity of their own. They don't have any existence or reality of their own. And you need to understand that they have invested in the murder of an American citizen. They are being removed in Ontario, California. Paul Leon is indeed unfit. His mental illness is being put on display. I don't have to have this demon, even though he will be subject to it. I don't have to have this demon before some medical physician right now to demonstrate and prove mental illness that he sharing in the same pattern of conduct, in the same environment, with the same community that he is a part of. Where I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library, the fake sun didn't go anywhere today. It didn't go anywhere. You know where the Ontario City Hall is? Where this the City Hall is, which is where the essentially, quote unquote, the so-called headquarters of the mayor and the city council. The fake sun sits over the Ontario City Hall all day long, in other words. That's what I'm documenting. It's right behind the Ovid Family Community Library, where I'm documenting on the record, if you looked at my evidence, ongoing terrorism just like this, where I'm outside of the doors of the Ontario City Hall. And Paul Leon doesn't step outside and stop that. He's not questioning it. He hasn't had any meetings about what's the ongoing terrorism regarding what's published on the internet about what's going on in the city of Ontario. He hasn't posed any inquiry. He hasn't slowed down any funding. He hasn't had any meeting with Mike Lorenz about suspicious conduct. He's a part of the criminal pattern of conduct. That's why. He is a demon. He's a part of the same entity, the Nephilim. They're demons and they're psychopaths who commit murder as a function of the government. Serial killers is what that's referred to as. They're serial killers, and they are absurdly psychopathic. That's why they're using helicopters and fire trucks. That's why they're stalking with inexplicable, irreconcilable light activity. Where is the light shooting from? The side of your car door? No, that's a demon. They're stalking. They're doing the same thing while they use fire trucks. License plate, molesting, stalking with Ontario Police, HIPLASH. This is a fat white woman. She's gang stalking in the middle of the night in furtherance of murder. She's a psychopath. All right, she's engaging in the P.O.C. and she's making this turn. She's in this environment at the time that she is in order to engage in what is stalking. This is surveillance on the roads and the highways, not traffic. And she also has no constitutional provisions. You will be prosecuted. I don't care what your address is. Your address is a means of identifying a facilitating venue. This is P.O.C. It is currently 12:05 a.m. This is immediately following video. The entity flies over my head, following me to the ARCO, where I'm going to publish the video of, again, the entity stalking, which all of the world that's watching this, my public investigation, you already know that the city of Ontario is stalking me and keeping my vagina under surveillance. You already know that my vagina is the subject of what is ongoing classified interest amongst the demons that are engaging in stalking me obsessively day and night, walking all around me, listening to me breathe. Is she dreaming yet? What's she dreaming about? Is she breathing with her mouth open or her eyes closed? What is she? How many times is she blinking? Okay, this is what the entity. These are demons and they're pathetic. They're psychopaths. Their mental illness is proven to you by the line of shadows that are all over the sidewalk. Their mental illness is demonstrated to you. The truth that I'm speaking to you about what's wrong with them and the criminal conduct that you could see you could see it themselves. I'm showing you video after video after video. I go here. Here goes the entity stalking me by helicopter. It's very specific to me. Because the entity is keeping a fake sun over me, as though the whole universe centers around me. No, that's only amongst the Nephilim. That's only amongst the Nephilim. The center of their entirely engineered environment centers on me and my vagina. Obsessed with my genitalia. That is the removal of a gang stalking mayor, a disbanding of a gang stalking police department, federal prison for kidnapping gang stalking police officers, psychopaths in need of mental examinations, and that's exactly what they're going to get. That's exactly what they're going to get. They will be humiliated by the public corruption that's being exposed. They will be humiliated by that prosecution, by that public information, because it's necessary that the rest of the country know about the domestic terrorists in this country. And they're going to be humiliated by it because you're dealing with what is a absurdly delusional sense of self and identity. Demons getting away with murdering people for decades, and they have not gotten away with it with me. I'm exposing them, and this is the entity that engages in more criminal conduct. And that's how I'm documenting those license plates. You're stalking me from corner to corner, place to place in a helicopter. That's hardcore evidence, tangible evidence of you stalking. And it goes even beyond, it's to its scientific degree, because that would never be the sun. And not only is it not the sun, it remains the fake sun over me because it stays at one address all day long. The entity is going to be prosecuted by science, and they will be humiliated by that. Their mental illness. It's a matter of public information. It's not going to be subject to some HIPAA privacy laws. It's a matter of what is public corruption. The government is engaging in what is corruption that facilitates murder of American citizens. The government doesn't have any privacy. This is the public entity's criminal activity, and it will be public information so that everybody else can refer to it and look up terrorists so that you know who they are. They can't just go work anywhere and go live anywhere anymore. And they can't hide amongst human beings anymore. This is the Nephilim. And the Nephilim are being humiliated, and they're being prosecuted, more importantly. They're being identified. They're going by the name of the Ontario City Hall, Paul Leon, the Ontario City Council, Alan D. Wapner, Jim Bowman. Those demons sitting on the gang stalking Ontario Airport Board. Those demons sitting on the Ontario executive team. Those demons calling themselves an Ontario Fire Department, an Ontario Police Department. Please. Okay, they are as real and genuine as the fake sun. And you know how fake that is. Okay, it's set over the Ovid Family Community Library as a matter of record from 10:04 a.m. upon my arrival, not already there like it would be in a natural environment. It remained over me as I went to that venue after 10 a.m. and it was already open and the fake sun was not there. It remained over me en route to that venue, and the entity engages in keeping it there as I go out and get it at 4 p.m. It's still there. License 414524744X. That's a piece of paper with large characters typed on it. Gang stalking in anticipation of documentation going to ARCO. ARCO is going to be prosecuted. It's headquartered in LA. ARCO is engaged in what is terrorizing American citizens, providing a crime scene for demons to sit around stalking. All they do is pick up a gas pump and they're stalking. Okay, the entity's engaged in criminal summoning El Pescado at G Street in Euclid. The entity gang stalking at Pizza Hut 715 North Euclid Avenue. That's where they're after that video that I captured. All they're doing is engaging in what is use of police lights, fire truck lights. They're stalking and it's monitoring. It's light activity. This is what these demons are doing while they're stopping on the side of the road. This is what the people in the state are doing by stalking at the gas station. This is what the demons are doing on all manner of sides of the road. So I'm going to show you this. This is mental illness. These are the demons that are being removed from office. They're stalking on Lemon. The demons are stalking at the parking lot. They're stalking at Gloria's Cochinas. These are mentally ill psychopaths. The entity that is mentally ill is being removed from any ability to hide behind a police agency, any ability to hide using what is a fire department, because that's all those demons are doing, using emergency vehicles, being psychopaths stalking just like these demons are in their own vehicles. License plate, one of these demons stalking with the police, with the government, license plate 414524744X, drives up to the ARCO to engage in what is aiming toward me, and then aiming light towards me, and then is driving off. These demons whose license plates I read already, are engaged in stalking outside of Gloria's Cochinas. They're all listening to what is the evidence of them being obsessed with my vagina, and the fact that they're sex offenders is also going to be public information. The fact that they conspired to murder an innocent American citizen, public information, and also it's relevant to what is going to be a systematic. Any immigrants are being deported out of this country. You're not staying in this country at all. You got cousins that are immigrants. This is blowing the whistle, and everybody in the family is getting shipped out of here. Everyone. Your grandmama. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been here. Because you're engaging in terrorism, that's exposing everyone, and you are rightfully and justly being shipped out, and anybody related to you, because you've brought the heat on yourself. This is an entity that's engaging in that, and they're doing so with impunity on behalf of a government that can't defend itself or anyone else in federal court. It incriminates everyone. That's having anything to do with the wildly and obviously corrupt city of Ontario. It's engaged in criminal summoning, facilitating everything. Everybody that's at this traffic light, everybody at these gas stations, everybody at Gloria's Cochinas, everybody living in relevant position, traveling right now, are monitoring. The demons are stalking in the intersection with light activity. This is P.O.C. This is an entity that's engaged in this. This is what I documented last night. This is why I gave you an expose on this terrorist, Paul Leon, today. Well, yesterday now, because it's 12:11 a.m. Because the entity is engaged in what is public corruption, and this mental illness is shared by a whole population of terrorists who are enemies of this country. What's happening with regard to where I'm located in the entity, the state of California that's targeting me, this is illustrative. This is prophetic with regard to what is happening to American citizens, to what's going to happen with more American citizens, to the desperation of Satan, and how he's using people and how they're going to be targeted. How it's going to become more and more prevalent, more and more desperate, more and more criminal and obvious. Satan will not seek to be smiling, in other words, during the day and showing his fangs and being the maniacal psychopath that he doesn't want anybody else to, that's not going to, Satan is going to be more and more obvious. This exposure is letting you know about the ongoing threat that's been in existence and that ongoing threat that remains with regard to American citizens who need to know enemies surround, spiritual enemies, and also domestic enemies of this country. Just because they can't spell it, that doesn't mean that they are not the form of it. They don't care about your constitutional rights. They don't care about your right to privacy. They don't care that you don't want to be sexually violated. They don't care that you don't want them following them around from, they don't want you following them around, they don't care that you don't want them following you around from place to place. They don't care about that. They're psychopaths and they are not human beings. These are demonic spirits. They're monitoring spirits. They're demon-possessed people who are seeking and failing at. They can no longer present as sane. They can no longer present as normal human beings like you and I. They are hiding amongst the human race, in other words, and they are filling the government, and they fill a population. That's what fills California. And by the way, they are all over social media. You're following them. You're idolizing them. You're interacting with them. You're taking advice from them. You are watching their movies and listening to their music. You're subscribing to their content, and they're demons. That's what you need to know. They're demons. They are gang stalking, vagina monitoring demons, psychopaths and sex offenders, upright, slimy cockroaches. That's what they are. And they fill the state of California. That's what's stalking me, gang stalking me. That's what's sitting up gang stalking and monitoring me on the internet, watching me desecrate Satan. They're demons. These are not people. This is not flesh and blood. These are demons. You need to understand that. And the entities engaging in this with regard to what is prophetic. What you're watching me, you like watching people suffer, you need Jesus. And if you die like that, you're going to bust hell wide open. But this, what you're seeing happen to me, this is going to happen to more and more people. It's already happened to people that are already dead. They didn't get to tell anyone. The entity murdered their reputation and then took their life and then blamed them for what happened to them for their own demise. This is evil, okay? This is absolute evil. All I've done is shown you the problem, and I've also presented the resolution, and I've also letting you know what is the core. It is Satan himself. It is Satan himself. This is evil. This is evil that's manifesting in corrupt and inhumane behavior and conduct, lawlessness. All right, it is currently, like I stated, 12:15 a.m. now. It's October 19th. This is going to remain on the same continuous documentation because of the nature of what I'm documenting right now, and I'm going to keep that continuity of ongoing fluid thought and analysis. I'm going to publish this evidence. The entity is maintaining surveillance at what is ARCO, doing so while they're maintaining what is criminal summoning at the intersection nearest G Street and Euclid. They're doing so after the video that you just listened to. As I start recording, they were engaging in this before. The moment that I start recording, these are demons it's like putting a wig on or putting a weave in your hair. They're very fake. They don't care about that it's actually not their hair. They don't have any sort of value with regard to the authenticity of the thing. They're concerned about when I start pressing record and what is clearly, okay, why are you looking, but I've been capturing this hundreds of times, by the way. Everybody already knows that the Ontario police is illegitimate and that they're stalkers. SSA5C3, sex offender, sexual assault and battery as an entity, engaging in criminal summoning with the entity. They're engaging in what is stalking me, following me from the Chevron to the Ontario Town Square, repeatedly stalking on video and in images at Ontario Town Square with the people of the state. Even while I'm documenting the people of the state, then you're flying over my head again. You're stalking me as I go to 537 North Euclid Avenue while a demon is crossing path. You're not walking around. They're an engineered light. This is ceaseless surveillance. These are psychopaths who want to be stalkers, but they don't want you to know that they're stalkers. That's psychopathic. That's absurdly sick. That is what is hiding amongst the demon-possessed who want to present as normal people like you and I. They want to exploit the Constitution as though they have constitutional protections under the state and federal constitutions, which they do not. But this is the government that's acting, again, through the people of the state who are supposed to be presenting as private citizens. They are not. This is the malice, all the angles of malice that you're looking at. And they're also doing so as demons that want to present as normal beings like you, and they're not. They're not. There is demons. They're demon-possessed stalkers. They are gang stalking with regard to a satanic ritualistic means of targeting someone before they murder that person. And guess what? Stay-at-home moms, Starbucks baristas, librarians, gas station clerks, grocery stores, apartment complexes, school bus drivers. It does not matter. Immigration attorneys. It is public corruption. There is no exception. The entities engaged in this P.O.C. and the demon-possessed are just that. They feel it. Satan has absolutely taken over a people who have, and as he's taken them over, they're mine. These are not sane people. These are sick. They are animals. They've become animals, and they are accustomed to getting away with corruption. They have also, by the way, taken what is some sort of investment, some sort of commitment to that which they're not going to achieve, which is sacrificing me. So you have what is going to be prosecuted as mental illness. That train is coexisting with what is the use of my device, documenting Glorias Cochinas gang stalking, okay? Glorias Cochinas is at what is D Street in Euclid. A demon outside of Glorias Cochinas stalking in the path with light, and that demon is a coward. If I go and get that license plate, they speed off, okay? Because I'm on the opposite at E Street in Euclid, and the demons are gang stalking at what is G Street in Euclid with light activities, criminal summoning. The entities engaging in the pattern of coming together and stalking with light is a federal offense. That venue is engaged in that. Glorias Cochinas is fully exposed to what is a prosecution, by the way, as is every business. But the entities engaging in this with the people of the state that use venues in order to, and that's supposed to be the guise of, oh, I'm not stalking. I don't know the target. I'm minding my business. I'm at the club. I'm at the gas station. I'm at the grocery store. I'm at Starbucks getting coffee. They're stalking. They do so under the fake sun and engineer light. They do so as vicarious state actors, engaging in surveillance and furtherance of murder. The gang stalking mayor, Paul Leon, is being removed from office, and the entities engaging in what is mentally depraved, demented behavior, okay? That is speaking to what is unfit in the first place for any mayor to remain in office. He has the same condition. He's engaged in the same criminal system. And not only that, you will not remain in office while this matter of public corruption is occurring on your watch. You're losing your position under all circumstances, okay? It is currently 12:20 a.m. This is P.O.C. GXU 557 9RKF 380 stalking at E Street and Euclid, doing so with the Ontario Police, with the City of Ontario, and furtherance of murder. It's 12:22 a.m. Stalking via ARCO 434 North Euclid Avenue, 8UKJ 332. Another psychopath, license 763 YPT. It's P.O.C. Sexual assault and battery by entity, molesting with light, monitoring with the entity that's engaged in criminal summoning at G Street in Euclid. Looks like an African-American male. Again, 763 YPJ. And 8UKJ 332, ongoing surveillance at the gas station ARCO, maintaining presence in the path, monitoring as the evidence is being uploaded on the internet. P.O.C. Surveillance at the intersection, not going forward during a green light. This is license plate 53831H3. 53831H3. Lights green. They're stalking. This is P.O.C. Very much consumed with me. All right, and that's proven in the engineered environment as well. It is currently 12:25 a.m. This is all of that which is committed in furtherance of murdering the targeted individual. There will be no murder of this federal prosecutor. I am prosecuting the government, and this is also establishing precedent. American citizens will be enforcing their rights against the U.S. government that targets them, that defames them, that steals from them in many cases, steals their identity, and also engages in what is psychologically torturing and sexually violating them in ways that shall be recognized under federal law with regard to the mentally ill and satanic means of targeting and violating the person and their privacy and violating their dignity. All right, it is currently, again, 12:26 a.m. License plate 8PTT959, criminal summoning, P.O.C. License plate 9MBM410, stalking in the path with glorious cochinas, maintaining another vehicle. They're maintaining light around the perimeter. That's the significance of going to the gas station. That's a form of stalking around the perimeter with light and presence. Doing so with the Ontario Fire, Ontario Police, stalking in the path with light, monitoring while these demons, they basically defecated on themselves when I started pressing record. Then they started sounding sirens. There is no emergency. The entity is always stalking me by helicopters. And the entity is doing what you are trained to recognize is this is the specific environment. This is ceaseless surveillance. So the sirens and lights have a criminal purpose. It's called audible activity and light activity while you are stalking as a fire department and a police department, whatever means of stalking by that government. And they nearly defecated themselves when I started recording, again, of a demon in a helicopter that is following me from place to place as I document multiple videos in one day. I'm at one place and then I'm going to another place and that's the same encounter, and then I go to another place and that's the same encounter, which is harassment by the government, shown through and tied together, connected inevitably with what is a suspicious, that is a specific environment that defies nature, that is abnormal, that is with regard to a long documented pattern of conduct in conformity to a documented pattern of conduct, and that's the entity that's engaging in what is stalking me from, that's the definition of stalking, following from place to place. While you're gang stalking, you're engaging in surveillance because the entity is stalking you directly in police uniforms and stalking you vicariously when you go to Starbucks. Because Starbucks is engaged in surveillance with that police department. And it's a crime scene when the fake sun remains over you, when engineer light is present. They're monitoring. That's how the entity engages in that. Very highly unintelligent, but I've laid it out so that everyone can witness this and understand it, because the entity is engaging in what is defecating on itself and then started sounding fire lights and sirens, which the entity engages in because they are under the assumption, the false assumption, and this is because this is a government that bullies. This is not a government that's intelligent. These are demons. These are lower beings. And they surmise they have been taught by the corruption that they've been able to get away with, that because they sound sirens, because they're in emergency vehicles, that what they're doing is superseding what anybody else would claim, what anybody else is claiming to be addressed or is having anything to do with them, and that it is all important. They are engaged in what is omnipresence and engaged in what is all manner of what they say is an emergency and it's not going to be questioned, and all of that is a fallacy. That's all a lie. Out of hell where they came from, and they're going to be prosecuted like the demons that they are, the corrupt minions that they are, as they manifest as demons right before the eyes of the world. The entity engaged in what is light activity, relevant positioning, while they are stalking in the most absurd ways, which is going to be evidence used to diagnose mental illness. Stalking in a fire truck, that's malice. It's also very demented. It's also a criminal misuse of expenditures, which is removal of people like Paul Leon from office, removal of Michael GERKEN. He's also going to be removed because of his mental incompetence, proven by his criminal conduct as an entire fire department. Engaging what is keeping my vagina under surveillance, a sex offender, doing so as a whole agency, as psychopaths, mentally incompetent, while you're engaging in malicious surveillance under a fake sun that's going directly toward your mental instability, not the mental instability of any targeted individual. It bears no reflection on them at all, by the way, at all, under any circumstances whatsoever. That doesn't even logically follow. When you're capturing video of something that you're not, unless you put that fake sun in the sky, how does that have anything to do with you and your mental state? The entity is engaging in what is the absence of any support for what is clear criminal defamation, but also it requires corruption of the government that would entertain it. The government needs the target individual to be defamed. That's how that gains any traction. All right. And I've shown how the courts are a part of the same gang stalking system, how the sheriff's department is engaged in the same gang stalking system, and it is indeed kidnapping committed by the government. The government needs all the working pieces in order to accomplish it. All right, and you're going to prison accordingly. Ontario Police gang stalking vehicle number 1057, stalking going what is north on Euclid Avenue. Doing so at 12:32 a.m. in the same exact engineer light. The people of the state are gang stalking with them. 9AXX943, P.O.C. The Ontario Police are engaged in criminal activity. Those are psychopaths that have devoted the use of a whole police department and everything, and all the money and funds is engaged in criminal surveillance. They're not engaged in law enforcement. They're not even engaged in, they can't even put facts together to come up with a legitimate reason as to why they're in my face, which would be something that is provided to them under doctrines like reasonable suspicion of probable cause. They're not even familiar with those terms. They can't spell Constitution, and they cannot come up with actual reasons. That's because I'm not a criminal. And I've also ran circles around them with regard to their criminal activity, and they're engaged in what is ongoing harassment and kidnapping me because they're bullies with no intellect. And they're going to prison for bullying the wrong person. I don't know who you think you're bullying, but you're going to prison for putting your hands on me. You're going to federal prison, and I am not playing. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not just running my mouth and just saying whatever I want to say. You are actually going to prison. This is the prophetic message for today. You're going to federal prison. Everybody having anything to do with the kidnappings happening at Economy Inn, happening at the Museum of History and Arts, happening at Starbucks, happening at Woodside Senior Apartments, happening at the Ovid Family Community Library. You are going to federal prison. And continuous gang stalking is not helping your case. You're going to prison. You already don't have a defense. You're going straight to you're going to prison. I'm going to let you know that right now. You're going to federal prison. It's currently the entities engaging in what is surveillance on the roads and the highways. There's no warrant or probable cause, and this is how you're getting to the bigger picture. This is all stalking. All I've done is shown the ongoing consistent evidence showing there is no area of life or no area or exception or time frame where they're engaged in anything other than surveilling me. And these are not only that, these are demons, and the 24-hour obsession is myself. Every function, every household, every person, as unfathomable as that is, that's exactly what the evidence shows. And you don't prosecute and you don't form conclusions based, well, you should not, and it's unreasonable to form conclusions and prosecute or conduct any investigation based on what you are only capable to accept in your mind, what you can fathom. You go where the facts lead you. And it's not where you want to go, it's where the facts lead. That's what leads. That's where you get your inevitable conclusions. It is exactly what it is. And they are exactly what I said that they are, and they're exactly what the evidence shows that they are. And just like you would in any circumstance, you also analyze that evidence, and it tells you about mental illness, it tells you about malice, it tells you about impunity, which also informs the ways in which they're torturing and harming other people that don't have a voice. Imagine me without the P.O.C. without evidence to prove that Tracy Banks is a lying psychopath and a pedophile. To prove that Eric Spencer and Jay Snazzy intend the worst for me and are defaming me with the Ontario Police Department, with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court without the evidence. They walk away with my money and my property. I'm locked up against my will in a facility, being battered, putting drugs in my body, forcing me to be medicated when there is nothing wrong with me whatsoever. Without the P.O.C., that's what the government accomplishes. It's kidnapping, and it precedes murder. While they also do that, understand what the demon-possessed that are capable of doing that, they sexually violate, they rape patients and those that are in these facilities that don't have a voice. They medicate them, and they take advantage of them. If you happen to be a beautiful target individual, they're raping you day and night. What are you going to do about it? What can you understand how this is going into what is a cycle where people are literally taken advantage of? And there's nothing wrong with them. They've been targeted. This is what is the purpose of this body of evidence, and it is for your protection, even you psychopaths that are currently deriving pleasure, because you may find yourself on the wrong end of this targeting system. Satan doesn't have any friends. Satan's not loyal to anyone. And you may not have the spiritual protection that you're witnessing me walk in order to expose you. Satan himself, okay? The entities engaged in this P.O.C., and this is what American citizens are faced with. This is what is threatening the lives and the liberty and the well-being of American citizens, and that's why the P.O.C. is so important, okay? It is currently 12:36 a.m., and this is evidence that is being published on the internet, and it is being uploaded to the Google Drive in real time, so this is P.O.C. I'm going to go ahead and finish publishing. All right, Stalking on the Path as I open up YouTube on the internet, license 9BER550. Okay, Stalking on the Path also at ARCO 96726 Apple II. And license plate, stalking with ongoing noise, opening and closing their doors, getting in and out of their cars. It's all pursuant to my movement and what I'm doing on my device. These are demons that are monitoring. This is psychopathic behavior, as you're aware of the fact that the demon-possessed are real. And that the demon-possessed are engaged in everything that they do, live and breathe and having their movements and everything pursuant to monitoring another person. 61510Y1.
P.O.C. at ARCO, gang stalking and gas stalls number 2. That would be number 4 and number 2. And this one's gang stalking, license 9BER 550, gang stalking at gas stall number 3. Getting out, looking at the closed down office, the storefront, which is monitoring. They're not here. It's not even about the gas. Like going to get coffee at Starbucks under the fake sun. It's not about the coffee. It's about me. I'm there. They're engaging in surveillance. Starbucks is supposed to be big spider. That Starbucks is supposed to be the guys, the distraction, the focus. This is the stage that they're standing on when all is criminal surveillance, all of it. So in other words, this is a means for pacing presence in the path wide activity. And the entity does so as a favor, if you will. They are gang stalking together as demons. The police are monitoring my physical movements. These are puppets of Satan. They are engaging in what is demonic activity using police vehicles and helicopters. Very sick, very lethal, very violent, and very demented means of gang stalking, which is demonic activity. And it's occurring amongst those that want to hide amongst and be confused as and mistaken for law enforcement. Given, in other words, authority that is a threat to American citizens, authority that they don't actually have based on their true intent, and not only their intent, but what they're actually engaged in, which is, first of all, they're demons that are monitoring. Second of all, they're engaged in surveillance using the resources of a police department. So they're engaged in surveillance in the spirit, if you will, and they're also engaged in surveillance in the physical on earth using technology and resources, violating privacy on the internet, on communication devices, and relevant positionment. In other words, everywhere that you're going, surveillance is underway. And the entity is doing it under the guise of being a law enforcement. It's not law enforcement. Law enforcement and criminal surveillance are two distinct things, not the same thing at all. Not similar either. All right?